When it comes to older games, I have dipped my toes into the water, but usually not taking too deep of a plunge. Now, being an FPS head, I've of course played the original Half-Life, Call of Duty 2, System Shock 2, Bioshock, Deus Ex, and most recently, John Romero's most influential work, Daikatana. However, one game series from the older era that completely captured my attention was Thief, a game developed by Looking Glass Studios, and is one of the fathers of the stealth genre. I had such an enjoyable experience with both Thief 1 and 2, because I've never played anything quite like it. The closest thing we have in the modern era that matches this genre is really only the Dishonored series. Don't get me wrong, the Dishonored games are fucking rad as hell, and I always enjoy just hopping around and making people fly off roofs. However, the stealth in these games comes more from the fact that A, you don't want to get the bad ending and have all these characters just hating on your guts the entire time. And B, you're conserving your resources to kill people even harder later on, and it's just more efficient to get through the level. However, in the Thief games, you're stealthy because you're a fucking loser. In these games, you play as Garrett, and you're just a really, really good thief. You are not a fighter. You are stealing things because you're trying to pay your rent. You're not gonna barely survive one sword fight with a guard, using the shitty melee mechanics because... Don't even think about messing with two guards. It is absolutely imperative that you remain undetected, and if you are caught, your number one goal is to get back into stealth rather than to fight them. And you're given so many different options to navigate or manipulate the environment with some impeccably designed levels. Anyways, all of this is just to say, these games are rad as hell, and I am thankful that their legacies continue through this day through the indie space. But it is kind of sad that in the AAA space, it's been reduced to nothing but an aspect of other more open-ended video games rather than being the main focus. Except, there was a AAA attempt to bring the series back in 2014, with the release of Thief, yes, it's called the same thing, developed by Eidos Montreal and published by Squeenix, which is a reboot to the franchise. Now, it is a different developer from the guys that did the original game, but you know what? The Deus Ex reboot was also pretty dang decent with different devs, so maybe this could... Oh my god. Well, I think you can see this very much did not land well with people. Oh, and if you didn't already know this, a lot of this video is going to be making comparisons to older games, and if you have a problem with this,
shock me!
I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. I had a very hard time making the script for this video, because there are just so many issues I have with the game that all kind of tie in together. But I guess I could start with telling you what the setup for this game is. You see, you are playing as Master Thief Garrett, where one night you're trying to complete a contract with your protege, Erin, who kind of sucks and kills people.
You don't see much since the factories came.
This plot point only exists so that Garrett can take her killing tool and make her something to be mad at him about. Now, while on this job, a group of people are conducting a magical ritual to, I don't know, summon more kids to their basements. Now, the job goes wrong, and Erin falls into the magical bullshit the wizards are summoning, and an explosion happens that infuses Garrett's eye with magical bullshit, and puts him in a coma for a year. And when he awakens, he sees that the city is now overtaken by a plague called the Gloom. After escaping the guards, you decide to go back to your hideout and discover what the hell is going on. Now, I'm not going to go too far into the story, because it's kind of very by the numbers, and it's also really confusing, and it tries to have some of the mysticism and mysteriousness of the older games, but it doesn't really deliver it as well, because the cutscenes do not even have close to the same level of presentation.
I was contacted by a woman named Victoria.
She claims to represent a client who was impressed by the way I took care of Ramirez.
Like, come on. The sauce is unreal. It also probably doesn't hurt that you have the main man, Stephen Russell, voicing Garrett. Unfortunately, Stephen Russell did not return for, this reboot because they wanted to mocap the actors, and Stephen was not young enough to do the mocap. Why didn't they just voice him over the characters? I don't know. I guess that's just a decision they ran with. And I'm also gonna be real, the writing of some of these scenes is painful.
To be alone, you must have something to be alone from.
The best way I could really pin down the quality of this game's story is by telling you the villains of all 3 of these games that I've played. See, the main antagonist in Thief 1 was a trickster god that was hell-bent on sending the world into darkness.
Are you prepared to give Mr. Garrett his compensation?
For Thief 2, it was a megalomaniacal, narcissistic mad prophet who sounded like Droopy Dog and wanted to end all organic life in the city.
Is this functioning? Oh. My good guess. Welcome to Angel Watch.
And for Thief 4, you have some cult leader guy who's not even close to as interesting as the other 2, because I genuinely have very little clue what his end goal even was outside of the helping people using magic. And in reality, this isn't really the main villain you're even facing, because the guy you are actually facing most of the time in the game is a guy called the Thief Taker General, and he looks like this. I am not afraid of this. Now, while this guy looks like ass, I would honestly say that on a visual level, the game doesn't look too bad. It can even have some striking visuals at times. But I would definitely say it doesn't have the same thick atmosphere of the first 2 games. Some of it is partly because of the setting, because Thief 1 would have these really absurd, fantastical areas, while Thief 2 would have this really unique setting of a medieval period experiencing a mechanical revolution. And Thief 3, even with all the faults, still had fantastic art direction, especially using the stencil shadows. But Thief 4 kinda just feels like a more generic Victorian steampunk era. And I would also argue that the locational variety is just not as good as the first few games, because even though it's not as if there are no areas to explore, in the first few Thief games you would be going through, twisted mansions, sheriff offices, warehouses, and they all felt really distinct from each other, while in Thief 4, they kinda just blend together. Even when it is a brothel in the city, a factory, and even an underground library, it just doesn't feel like you're really exploring a new area. It doesn't help that this game implements the shitty eagle vision mechanic, which has the exact same problem as every other game that implements this godforsaken mechanic, and that is that you have all of this work that visual artists put in to bring this world into life, and now it's covered with this soupy, disgusting fucking overlay that sole purpose is to highlight areas in the level that should either just be noticeable on their own, or at the very least just have a marker over it. I hate this mechanic so much. But when the game doesn't have this disgusting effect on the screen, it actually looks pretty good. The audio work, I would not say the same. See, the sound design and music of the first 3 games is just fucking amazing. It created such a tense atmosphere, and you're basically constantly afraid of getting caught at any moment.
This must be how they spend all those tithes.
Hello? Someone there? Oh well, don't know what it was.
The audio also contributed to gameplay because different surfaces mattered massively to enemy perception. You can speed as much as you want on carpet, but if you're stepping on concrete or marble, you better be taking it slow, because enemies will hear you if you just go stomping around on those surfaces. I still can't think of games today that do audio quite like Thief. In Thief 4, it's fine. There is not really any standout effects. The music is really generic. It barely does its job, to be honest. I don't have a lot to say about it. However, when it comes to gameplay, alright, let me just run through some of the changes they made that are just not good. See, the rope arrow has had its usefulness exponentially reduced by the fact that you're only allowed to fire at specific points that the developer placed on the map, rather than any wooden surface. The moss arrow is also gone, which honestly doesn't really matter at all, because I can barely think of any instance where the surface I was stepping on actually mattered, outside of broken glass that the developers also specifically have to place on the floor. So it's more of a trap than, a surface you have to keep in mind. And even then, that doesn't matter because you have this swoop ability that just allows you to dash through the level, and it makes stealth insanely easy because you just wait for a guy to go past, you spam the swoop to get behind him, knock him out, and you're absolutely going to want to knock him out and not fight him because the fighting in this game is jank as fuck. The original Thief games never had good combat, don't get me wrong, but trying to fight someone in this game is genuinely nauseating with just how much the camera moves around, and your best option being this weird lock-in that you get by just holding the button down if you have enough focus. It's not good. However, the really funny thing about this combat system is that it was inspired by the Sherlock Holmes movie, which kind of explains a lot.
Discombobulate.
And you're also not going to want to pickpocket him either, because you have to deal with the same sort of really jarring locked animation where you have to wait to swipe the pocket. And this brings us to what I find to be one of the most damaging aspects of the game, and that is that it is incessantly, obnoxiously putting emphasis on... Do you hate playing dumb, stupid games for babies? What do you mean I can't get on the subway? Look at this. Look at these fruits. Complete embarrassment. But you see, I'm a real gamer who only has the most refined taste in video games. Like Red Dead 2. Because the best part of that video game wasn't the masterful storytelling, well-written characters, or positively beautiful open world. No, the best part of that game was spending 5 minutes looting every single cabinet and corpse in the area, because you just really have to watch this pickup animation every single time you want to get something. But we need to keep this in mind that Thief was made years before Red Dead 2, so there must have been some visionaries on the team, because nearly every single action in this game is animation based. If you wanted to lean in Thief 1 or 2, look, one button, boom, you did it. Thief 4? Sorry bud, contextual animation that forces you around a corner, that you can't even do at any time, you specifically have to be at a corner to do it. You want to open a door, or press a button, or open a cabinet? You're gonna have to watch that. And if it's a loading zone, you're probably gonna have to spam a button to open a door or window to go through. You want to steal items in a game that's called Thief, in a franchise where the main premise is having to steal shit. Instead of making that action instantaneous, we're going to make it so that it takes 1 second for every single item you get. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it very quickly wears out its welcome. It got so annoying that I only ever collected the bare minimum loot in order to get upgrades. Obviously, it's trying to increase that immersion factor, but it simply doesn't work. For the same reason, it doesn't work in Horizon Zero Dawn. Because in Horizon Zero Dawn, I am a huntress cave woman trying to hunt robot dinosaurs. And I'm trying to explore this environment, and every 5 seconds, I have to stop and pick up some stupid twig or bush, and it's annoying. So you either deal with this annoyance, or you do nothing, and then when you're running low on resources, you spend the next, 10 or 20 minutes running around collecting it, because just doing it on the go is too annoying. In Elden Ring, I don't care that I'm picking up the item immediately, because the immersion in that game comes from exploring an environment and seeing what new areas and stories are gonna unfold to you. Oh look, I'm gonna go down here. Oh my goodness gracious, that's a dragon breathing lightning on me. What the hell is even that? I'm gonna call it Dave. And the crazy thing is that I only find this to be half of the problem about the game, because the game also messes up one of the most important aspects to stealth games, that being level design is quite a ferocious beast in game dev. It's one thing to make a cool gun or enemy, because while it's not exactly easy, it is a lot simpler, because you can make a halfway decent game just thinking about what those guys can do. This guy can jump real high and squish you. This is a shotgun that plays music when you fire it. Making a level, however, is far more difficult, because not only is making a fun environment to navigate just way more abstract than making a funny laser gun, you have to be thinking about what everything else does and how it's going to interact with the mechanics of the game. Does it accommodate the enemies, tools, player abilities, etc.? And that's even before making it feel like it's believable to traverse. And for stealth games, it's especially important because the entire genre is constructed around using the world to not be detected. So it is insane to me that Looking Glass made such insane banger levels nearly immediately. In Thief the Dark Projects, you go from Craig's Cleft Prison, a dark, dank mine, into a prison built by the Hammerites in order to break someone out, feeling a sense of unease as you navigate the dark hallways of the upper elites. And of course, I would be completely remiss to not talk about The Sword, a level that at first seems like you're just breaking into a generic mansion, but then turns into you navigating a madland of twisted hallways and traps as you try to obtain a magic sword. And when you get to Thief 2, oh my goodness, you got shipping and receiving, a heavily guarded warehouse filled to the brim with areas owned by different people, like an art museum, a gambling hall, an eccentric musician studio, a fucking pirate ship, First City Bank and Trust, where you have a classic bank heist sneaking past all of the newly installed machinery in order to blackmail the sheriff. And then you have Trace the Courier and Trail of Blood and, alright, yeah, look, I'm gonna be real with you, these missions are kinda doo-doo. Trace the Courier could have been a cutscene, and the game would have been better for it. Trail of Blood, half of the mission is just a straight line through a dark forest, and some caves. There's some kind of funny magic stuff in them, but is otherwise really boring to navigate. But then that's followed up by Life of the Party, and oh my fucking god, this mission is so rad! You're jumping across the rooftops across the city in order to get to this massive structure, and there's so many little crooks and crags to go to and explore, like a greenhouse, or a necromancer's spire, a rich noble's estate, and this is all before you even get to the tower. This level also has undoubtedly one of the best NPC interactions of any video.
We shoot like soldiers, so don't make promises your arrows can't keep. You got too far this time, you camelman and tunic-wearing mollycoddle! An arrow in the throat that'll shut you up!
So many of these levels are just so well constructed. You feel like you have multiple options to go through the level without it being too sprawling or confusing, and they give you so much variation in verticality and layout that it's a treat to just explore and try and find all the secrets. And you see, I'm gonna have to stop myself here, because I have to remind myself, we're not talking about Thief 2, we're talking about Thief 2014, and the levels are just not good at all. I don't like them. You see, remember how earlier I talked about how Trail of Blood essentially boils down to following a path, sometimes taking A or B? Imagine if every single level was like that, and that is Thief 2014. The levels are painfully linear, and what little non-linearity there is, it is the most astoundingly basic and binary type. It feels like this image right here. You are given, at max, 3 different paths to navigate that all lead to the same direction, and the alternative routes are, in reality, doors that are just locked off from you if you don't have a specific tool. I hope you have the bolt remover to get through this vent. I hope you have the rope arrow to go up this wall. Actually, that brings up a good point, and that is that even if the rope arrow and other mechanics of the older games were left as they were, it really wouldn't matter all that much, because the level design in this game just doesn't allow it to be as useful as it was in the older games, because of, instead of these intricate, interconnected areas, you have A or B, take it or leave it. And honestly, you don't even have that choice at points in the game, because the game will try to have these intense chase sequences, but they're just not scripted or set up correctly, so it's just this really boring press W to move forward, and it is like a pale imitation of an Uncharted sequence. It's just not good. Now, this game did have some DLC. Did it fix any of the issues that I... No, I completed it in 30 minutes, and I think the only addition I could detect personally was the security cameras that would just alert nearby guards, which regular guards just did anyway. It's kind of simultaneously amusing and depressing to me how all of this development time, all of this work the animators had to do, from making him push the button, knocking out the guards, collecting loot, to the level designers making these set pieces and puzzles, all of this is dedicated to try and make a realistic experience, only for it to be less immersive and less interactive than a game that was made in the late 90s. Now, I want to set aside some time to talk about this because obviously no game is ever developed with the intention of it being bad, but with this game in particular, I was curious as to what exactly was happening, and I would heavily recommend this video from Matt McMuscles on the topic. It goes way more in depth on this than I am, and it's very good. Definite recommend. Essentially, if I can condense it down for you, the beginning of the project was following Thief's older tenets way more closely, with large open levels and more immersive sim-type mechanics. Only, the rest of development was incredibly tumultuous, going through multiple directors until the final director was just an art director who got promoted and never directed a video game before. And this is also in combination of upper management and Squeenix giving messages like, oh, this needs to be older Thief, but also fucking action-packed, cinematic. And this game needs to be released on the PS3, Xbox 360, PC, and upcoming PS4 and Xbox One all at the same time. Oh, and it also needs to, quote, make big AAA numbers. Yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm surprised this game isn't worse, considering all these fucking weights the developers had placed on their backs. And the AAA number statement is just so confusing, considering that even the original Thief games had a more cult following than any sort of like mass industry-wide appeal. I commend the developers for doing the best when they had all the cards stacked against them, and honestly, I think they did like just a good job overall, even if I hate this thing. And at the end of the day, these are people just trying to work their jobs. They were given a bad stack of cards, and they did the best they could with it, and I commend them for making the game like this instead of potentially way, way worse. Because I've played, God knows I've played games that are worse than this. So much worse. So much horrifyingly worse. The unfortunate fact of the matter is that stealth is not really a genre that's ever going to have mass appeal. Because at the end of the day, most people want to be punching the bad guy in the face rather than slinking around in the shadows. But you know what? That's not going to stop people from making them. And so, to end this video, rather than on a downer, I would like to bring up some other cool stealth games that you can play. Like the Dark Mod, which is literally just an open source engine that uses the Doom 3 engine as a base. And people use it to make more modern Thief missions. I would recommend. Another one I would love to recommend is the Black Parade, which is a fan mod made for Thief Gold that I haven't finished yet, but after playing quite a bit of it, I am fucking telling you, play this right now if you are a Thief fan. It is so fucking awesome. Just the few levels I've played alone have either met or surpassed the level design of the original games, with ridiculously intricate maps, with all manner of secrets and hidden passages, with a tone that is far darker and grittier than the original story, as you play a convicted criminal who only really chooses to not kill out of efficiency rather than empathy. The quality is absolutely astounding, but it makes sense considering that this was being made by superfans over a period of 7 years. I'm really tempted to make a video on it, but this video is already probably like running the time limit, so if you guys are interested,
hit that like button.
And of course, I would hate myself if I didn't mention Gloomwood, which is an upcoming stealth game being developed by Dillian Rogers and published by the GOATs of the indie scene, New Blood Interactive. And let me tell you, even in early access, this game is worth your money, alright? It's kind of going for more of a Resident Evil 2 approach, where you have to make the most out of the few resources that you have. You're not this insane badass that can kill everyone, but you can still use your tools to defend yourself, or even go on the offensive. It has a wonderful art style echoing the graphics of the late 90s to early 2000s, and the levels are wonderfully detailed and delightful to navigate. Now, it is not done yet, it's still in early access, but I implore you to go buy it and then play it when it fully releases, because it is a wonderful iteration of the genre, and I am excited to see what the final product will be like. And I would say that's it. Now, I don't really have a bit planned for this. Check your pockets. Oh, what? The money you were gonna go feed your kids with, and your dog as well, and your back-broken wife? It's gone? Well, I took it. I'm sorry. You saw the title of this video. You knew where this bit's gonna go. You know, there's a word for people like me. People that take things from you and give it to themselves. You know what I am? I'm a